Oh my goodness. This thing was recording. I wasn't paying attention. Sorry about that. Yes, I want to talk about expecting others to have the same or similar morals to what you may have. Now, I hear this all the time. This is something that, that's okay. I'll keep talking. I'm outside and, when people walk by sometimes, but I'm going to stay on my topic though. Expecting people to have the same morals or similar to what you have. And I understand that. I have to constantly, and I've had to because I got the picture now. And I got the picture to the point where it's dangerous to finally get it, because when you finally get it, that is when masculine energy comes in. And see, that's the real masculine energy right there. When you finally get to the point where you don't expect others to have the same morals. And when I say morals, I'm not talking about what people do with their personal life. If they want to be a prostitute, stripper, some people want to judge what folks do with their personal life, whoever they sleep with, or anything else they do. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about stuff that others do that can affect people or a person or something like that they do to really affect other people's lives. Stuff like that, okay? Because we all do stuff, make decisions in our personal life that others might not agree with, so I'm not talking about that. But when you get to the point where you don't expect other people to have the same morals, meaning that they do whatever they want to do that could be low down, and you could be like, why they do that? Why they do that? That was wrong. I no longer say things are wrong. I no longer say things are wrong. Because at this point, it's not about wrong or right. That person is who they are, and it's not about how I feel about it. And right or wrong is based on whatever your standards are. It might not necessarily be the rule. It's just based on your own standards, all right? Even though a lot of society standards in this society, I would say United States society, even though it's going downhill, still certain things and heinous things that people do could be considered wrong. Where in some cultures it might not be considered wrong, right? But in this society, that's why I say it's really no right or wrong. It's really based on your standards, okay? And so now that I get to the point, and I'm telling you, this is kind of dangerous to get to this point, because when you get to the point where you see people are who they are, and it's no right or wrong. Whatever they do is what they do. Don't expect them to feel bad or think they're going to have some kind of remorse about what they did. Sometimes it happens, but in my life, sometimes it happens, but oftentimes you might get an apology once or twice in 50 years of your life, okay? So for the most part, people just do not have remorse. And when you get to that point, that's what masculine energy to me is, right? That's a part of it. That's why I made previous uploads about I don't think a lot of brown women have masculine energy, because I'm not seeing it. As far as the decisions they make, it's based on a lot of emotions. This is not a criticism to brown women. This is kind of a criticism to people who want to keep calling her masculine. So it's actually a criticism to them, not a criticism to brown women for being emotional women. But to the people who want to keep saying that to tear her down, it's kind of a criticism to them, because they don't understand what really masculine is. I get that she's all aggressive sometimes. Some of them are, not all anyway. Can be aggressive, can be strong, can have strong personalities, and you call that aggression. But to be honest with you, I've seen strong personalities in all groups of women. They're just not as... They just don't have the same they don't have the same features, I'll say, or the same complexion, I'll say, as the brown women. So a fair woman, a fair-skinned woman, can have the same strong personality, but she'll get a pass and still be called feminine because she is fair-skinned. So that's why I disagree with constantly wanting to call the brown woman masculine, because I see other women do similar things, especially when it comes to business, especially when it comes to standing her ground, especially when it comes to telling her truth and speaking her mind. I see other women do that too. And then I see other women that don't want to apologize. I want to say they wrong. Don't want to listen to you hardly. Sometimes they do. I have to say other women sometimes can listen a little better than brown women. Okay. But I think that's because a lot of brown women have been put in a position where they always need some validation, and so they always have to get what they need to say out, and they don't want to listen to what other folks have to say. That's some other stuff, that's some need for validation going on with that. But in my opinion now, I don't know. But that, what I'm saying is, getting back on the point, is that, you know, not expecting people to have the same morals or the same thinking, the way that the same concept of what's right and what's wrong as I may have. Once I drop that can become dangerous for a person who used to have compassion, because when you drop the expectation of people feeling like they're right or wrong, and you drop the expectation, you just accept them for who the heck they are, that, to me, that's the real type of masculine thinking. To me, that's the real kind of masculine thinking, because you don't try to figure out what they do. You just know they did it, and I don't have no expect. I don't even consider. I'm out of the human type of element of it. The human, the feelings, and all that stuff. I've let that go. I let feelings go. People hurt your feelings. I don't care about feelings no more. That's masculine. That's masculine. But it's almost like too many times people don't care how they treat somebody else. They kill, steal, and destroy. That's the Satan for you. That's the Satan that's in people. That's their lower natures, right? Kill, steal. Satan comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And they think it's some just one little entity running around and harassing folks when it's people in their lower nature. Right? I said this about Jesus in the tempter when he was fasting for 40 days. And after 40 days, he was hungry. And the devil came to tempt him. It was himself. In my opinion, okay, from my experience, I'll say it like that. Okay? But anyway, and some people are so out of touch with whatever kind of morals that society have, that they don't care what they do to somebody else. And when I finally got to the point of realizing that, you kind of lose compassion, honestly. You lose compassion, because then you realize that a lot of people don't care. Look at what's happened since 2020. How people just get evicted from their apartments with this whole lockdown, and all that stuff going on. People lost their jobs because they didn't want to get a jab, because these companies care more about the government taking money from them or whatever, because I think Biden made a statement, if these companies don't have their employees get vaccinated, if they, I guess healthcare companies had over 100 employees, they have to either get vaccinated or get tested every 3 or 4 days or every week. But I think it's getting to the point where these places in California especially want, healthcare places want their employees fully vaccinated, and it's no testing or nothing, just fully vaccinated. And they're just willing to let people go. And a lot of it has to do with money. It's not about health, because all these vaccinations have not slowed down the spread of anything. So it's not about health. It's all about money. To me, it's all about money. They don't care who lives they affect. They don't care if their doctor said, well, don't get that vaccination because looking at your medical record, and other things, it could kill you. They don't care about that. They're going to let you go. So this is what I'm talking about. Once you get to the point where people are going to do what they think is best for them, they're going to do what they want to do, and they don't care about who they hurt, you lose compassion for people. And at this point, I don't want to just completely lose compassion for people and then mess myself up. So what I have to do is sharpen my discernment. That's what has to happen. You got to sharpen your intuition. And I'm saying this to myself too. As I'm saying this, as I'm saying you, I'm actually still talking to myself too. The best thing to do to just not just completely be just actually completely non-compassionate to anything in the world is to have the very sharp intuition. But why is tuition a part of that word too? You have intuition, and then you have tuition that you pay for college or whatever. Why is that in there? But anyway, that's interesting. The very sharp intuition and very, very sharp discernment. And to me, having very sharp discernment and having very sharp intuition, you have to kind of get people out your life, and you definitely have to stop looking at a lot of things in media, because a lot of things in media includes a lot of black magic that goes past your conscious mind and goes to your unconscious. So you keep watching things like that, saying it ain't affecting you because it's going beyond your conscious mind and going straight to your unconscious, and that's where it's getting to you. And still, stuff like that can mess with your discernment and intuition too. Okay, so, but yeah, I was listening to a lady, and about talking about young brown women constantly getting killed, and she said, and we all do this now. I had to learn to stop doing it. And I kind of learned a very rough way to stop doing it because I had a problem with compassion. Like literally compassion during this time is a curse. If you don't have discernment, you can't have no compassion for everybody you see that's in a situation that might look bad, or compassion for people that might do things that you might not agree with, and you keep wanting to have compassion. Say, well, maybe that person done been through something. Maybe they had a problem with their mother. Maybe they just a damn devil. Stop having compassion. That's compassion when you make excuses for folks. You don't know who they are. Some people are born devils, and I know that's hard for some folks to believe because some people want to say every baby is a gift from God. Well, I think God said that, didn't God, when, I'm not a Christian, but every baby is not a gift from God. And I want to bring up an example from the Bible so I don't sound like I'm evil. When King David killed one of his soldiers to have an affair with that soldier's wife, and he felt like he needed to kill him, okay, one of his loyal soldiers, if I'm getting the story correct, because it's been a while since I read it, and that woman got pregnant. Didn't King David lose that baby? Didn't that wife lose that baby? And I think he had another child with that same woman, or I have to read the story again, but it wasn't that way. But killing that soldier to have an affair with this woman, and then she got pregnant, that baby died, didn't it? Didn't that baby die? Was that baby stillborn or something? That baby died. I don't think even the God of the Bible considers every baby a gift from God, because that baby died. And then with Abraham and Hagar, a lot of people know that story. Okay, Ishmael was not accepted by that particular Abrahamic God of the Bible, right? Ishmael was not accepted. So God did not say that child came from him, right? So, this thing about every baby is a gift from God, that's a lie. This is something that people want to use their morals and their fake whatever to make it sound like they're good people. I don't know. But they're telling a lie, because not even God in the Bible accepted all babies. Okay? But, yeah. So, making excuses for folks like why he killed her, or this is a popular one that I used to hear mostly Generation X and baby boomers come up with, when these men would molest these little girls in the brown community. And a very popular excuse that brown women would come up with, especially in those generations, is that, well, he's done it because he is so frustrated by white supremacy, and that he had to go molest little girls because of white supremacy. I would hear so many brown women say that. Now, to me, that's kind of demonic, honestly. I don't want to say that she had compassion. I think she's demonic for saying that. I don't know what that is. I don't know what woman says that. Because I want to say that's compassion. They want to keep having all this compassion. But that's kind of demonic. Because when I say compassion, it's the things that a lot of people try to find excuses. Like, it was this one guy. What was he? I don't know what he was. I don't know if he was a Buddhist or whatever he was, but I saw him on YouTube. And he said, when people do evil things, want to do evil things to you, it's only because they want to talk about all this forgiveness stuff, right? And forgiveness is not for other people. Forgiveness is for you. You should forgive yourself. You should not forgive whatever you think is out of you, is outside of you. It's not real. There's nothing outside of you. Everything is inner. With that being said, you should just forgive yourself. And then your inner world change, and the people that you encounter is what I feel. So forgiveness should not be for you forgiving somebody outside, what you think is outside of yourself. I hate that. I really hate that teaching. I don't think it's true. But yeah, this guy was talking about how a lot of people that would do things and want to hurt you and do stuff like that is because, they're miserable in their own life. That could be the truth for some, but that's not the truth for all. Some people are just devils, and that's how they are. Some people are born Narcissists, they only get their way, don't matter who they do or who they hurt to get it, they're going to do it their way ever since they were born. And some people know little kids like that, that's been like that since they were born. And so it's not always about they being miserable or something happening in their life. Maybe they just a devil. Maybe they're just a devil. This is why I don't get into all this compassion and making excuses and thinking somebody is supposed to have the same concept of right and wrong that I have, right? Another thing, but yeah, that can be dangerous because once you lose your compassion, you definitely either make sure you have to have sharp discernment and intuition, or else you can just not really just completely not give a darn about nobody else. And I don't think that's how Spirit wants us to be either. I think we're supposed to have sharp discernment. And having sharp discernment kind of means cutting off all the distractions. Okay, so our sharp discernment can kick in. That's what I don't think Spirit just wants us to completely forget the world around us, because was the world around us created from our inner world anyway, right? But and another thing, I'm gonna bring this up about brown women especially, and this is just an example of many. I'm just using her because I recently listened to her, but it's way more examples than her. And it's this lady I was listening to talk about how domestic violence is increasing, and she finally got tired of people wanting to criticize her for being emotional and crying when she sees something happen to brown women. She said somebody made a whole video about her getting emotional and crying over somebody she don't know. Well, you know what? That person, I don't know, it's probably a male that did that. I'm not going to go look for the video. If it's a female, she's male identified. But here's the thing. I remember this same lady when Kevin Samuels supposedly died, or whenever he died. Whenever things are kind of controlled by Hollywood, I don't believe the stories. Okay, so when he supposedly died, this same lady cried for black men because she saw that black men were in trouble. Did anybody make a long video about her crying for black men? See, because it's expected for the brown woman to always care about brown men and brown men issues, but the minute she turns her attention to herself, it's a problem. It's a problem, and this is why I'm kind of glad I'm not married and I don't have boys. Not to criticize anybody else who have boys and who's married to a brown male, but this seems to be very hard for those women. It's very hard for them to come to a conclusion because they want to, they want to see their husband and their sons in every brown male, the collective of brown men in the brown community, and I think that's a huge mistake. I realize I'm not married and I don't have boys, but it's a huge mistake to me to not really want to see things for what they are. I'm not saying that she don't, I'm just saying in general. To me, it's a huge mistake to not see things for what it is, or choose to not see things for what it is because you're married to a man that you consider good to you, and you have sons that you don't want to see that the collective of this group of people is extremely dangerous to you. No matter how many times they want to point out what white men are doing or what Latino men are doing, it's happening by the hands of brown men at a much higher percentage, because brown women, for the most part, are still mostly dealing with brown men and they're in closer proximity to brown men. So whatever those men are doing is nowhere near the numbers, okay? But, the worst thing to do is want to compare and want to say, well, I have a husband or I have sons, and so I don't hate the black man. See, the thing is, knowing the truth and seeing things for whatever your truth is and seeing things for what you believe it is ain't got nothing to do with you hating somebody. When you see things for what it is with the white community, for those people who, had issues with white folks, when you see things for what it is, you don't have to constantly explain that you don't hate them, right? You know that you have a right to your own truth based on your experience, and right, and based on just what you continue to see, even if it's not your experience. I'm talking specifically to like certain brown women. You have a right to your opinion when it comes to stuff like that. But when it comes to seeing the collective of a group of men who are the biggest killers of brown women, it's hard to come to that conclusion with a woman who has a husband and male sons, because she feels like she has to see her husband and son in a collective of brown men. But if you see your husband and son in the collective of brown men, then your husband and your sons are killers. That is the most dangerous thing to do, and that's why I say black women, brown women are not masculine. They're not masculine. They're very much feminine. They do not use the masculine thinking process when it comes to that. Why would you not want to see what's going on with the collective of a certain group of men because you feel like your husband and your sons belong to this particular collective? First of all, they don't belong to anybody. Because if you're in a religion and you believe in following the commandments of this certain God, and your husband does and your sons do too, well, if the collective of men is not doing that, then your husband and your sons don't belong to them in the first place. So you should not even see your sons and your husband in this collective of men, especially if they are going against the word of who your God is, right? Now, if you are getting on the path of self-realization and knowing who your true self is and your authentic self, you should definitely not put yourself in a category with a group of people, even if you're white, black, or Latino, because you're not either one of those things. You're not Hebrew, you're not a Buddhist, you're not black, you're not white, you're not Mexican, you're not Asian. So if anybody on a path to their self-realization and becoming their authentic self and becoming a soul again, you should definitely not want to put yourself in a category of any group of people, because you're getting to know the self that has nothing to do with all this separation by colors and cultures and creed. Okay? But also I want to talk about how constantly having to explain yourself, and it's almost like brown women, and I've had this problem in my own life. It's almost like this need for somebody to validate how you feel. If you see that something is happening to a certain group of women that look like you, and it's like, I'm to the point like this. If I done seen it so many times, and I came to this conclusion, my conclusion is my conclusion. It's going to be spirit that's going to change it for me, not somebody else that got their own narrative. And brown women kind of have a problem with coming to their own conclusion without somebody else trying to butt in and tell them how they should think and feel. That's mind control. When somebody wants to constantly tell you how to think and feel, that's MK Ultra right there. They're trying to control your mind. What is right and what is wrong? Dr. Deborah Blair said the truth is up to you. So nobody really has a right unless you give it to them. Nobody has a right to come and tell you what your truth needs to be or what your perception of what you seeing need to be. Nobody needs to come and tell you that, because the truth is going to be up to you, and it's going to be your own spirit that's going to decide to maybe change whatever that perception is, not somebody else with their own agenda, because they want to continue to get away with murder, literally murder. They want to continue to get away with murder, so they want to So they want to continue to tell you that you're not seeing what you're seeing and make you feel bad for you expressing yourself, because they want to continue to kill you. And I'm not just talking about the brown men, I'm talking about even in my family. Like, they want to continue to hurt you. And now this is from personal experience. Now I'm talking about my family. This ain't got to do with no brown male. Even though brown men are involved because I'm related to them. But a lot of this has to do with females in my family too. They hate for you to see the truth or come to a conclusion of what they're doing, because they're going to gaslight you, because they want to continue to abuse you. And these men, these males, want to continue to make these women feel bad for coming to the conclusion, and other women who are demonic, want to make you feel bad for, and when I say demonic, I'm just talking about that particular way of thinking, because that particular way of thinking is completely against their own good, right? And so I call it it's just demonic. When it's a lot of things that we do is against our highest good. So a lot of us have been demonic in many times of our lives. But in this case, what these women do when they try to shush other brown women from telling her truth too, that's demonic, because they're going against their own higher good themselves. So that's it's just demonic. That's what it is, right? But yeah, so these women, constantly have to get gaslit and by these men, or even by females, but mostly by these men who just don't want her to open up her eyes, who don't want her to ever be aware. He wants to keep abusing her. And you know what? Here's the thing. For me, if it has to be that difficult, if you have to constantly have this kind of dilemma when it comes to you know what you're seeing, and you come up with your own perception of what you see, and a group of men always have to come and or women too have to come and try to change your mind, it's really best to separate from them. It has to come to a point where you say, I separate. And for the most part, a lot of brown people who are not for those kind of shenanigans, they need to separate from the brown community altogether. The brown community is extremely toxic, but a lot of communities are extremely toxic. But I don't like getting into that, because then that's deflecting. When I'm talking about a particular community for like 20 minutes and I have to keep going and saying about other communities do this too, that's like deflecting so people don't get mad. Right, I have to deflect and talk about, well, other people do this too, though. I have to keep deflecting so they don't get their feelings hurt. I don't feel like doing that. If I don't spend 20 minutes talking about the brown community, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about nobody else. Because I didn't grow up in their culture. I realize they have toxic things going on too. That's not the culture I grew up in. So why would I keep talking about something that I don't really know a whole lot about? I know of it. I'm around it, I live around them, but I don't know their culture like that. I wasn't born and raised in it. I'm not going to just be trying to keep deflecting and saying, well, other cultures do this too. Yeah, but that ain't what I'm talking about. I'm not going to keep doing that because somebody wants to get their feelings hurt and get emotional. Right? And that's what this lady has to keep doing. And brown women have to keep doing. They have to keep deflecting because folks want to get emotional when they talk about what's happening to the brown woman. Now, I'm not saying that the brown woman is innocent. I ain't saying that. And a lot of times brown women are complicit in the murders of other brown women. But the point is that if you are a person that see the toxicity, whether you're a male or female, at this point, nobody should be able to freely come and tell you what your perception should be. The truth is up to you, and it should not be to somebody else with their own agenda. All right? And it looks like that's a huge problem in the brown community, because that's what I'm talking about. It seems like it's a problem in the brown community. And with that, now me, I don't consider myself a part of a brown community. I know I'm in a society that has separated people by colors and races. I do realize that I live in a society like that. But like I say, when you're on this path to self-realization and getting out of the whole physical illusion anyway, then I don't put myself in the category with any group of people, because when you're on that kind of path, you get out of stuff like that, right? But as far as brown people who consider themselves, still call themselves what you call black, but they see things for what it is and they're getting sick of it, and they keep, every time they want to talk about it, they get gaslit by a lot of people in the brown community. But that's when it comes time to, you might need to separate. And this is just in general. To separate from people who want to keep you from your truth, what you see, maybe what spirit is trying to tell you. And you have people that might want to get in the way of your intuition, people that get in the way of your discernment and tell you, no, this is not true, this is true. It's like the guy, I forget that prophet's name, but he went, God told him to go in a certain direction to this person's house, right? But then when he comes back, he has to go back in a different direction. That's what God said. He told that prophet to go in a different direction than what he came. Than what he came. All right. But this prophet met another prophet, and that other prophet that he met said, no, God didn't say do that. God said it was okay for you to go in the same direction. What happened? That prophet, because he wanted to listen to the other prophet, and by the way, that's a lack of confidence too. Somebody's able to, and it's something I think we all got to work on. This person was able to hear God clearly, but this other person was so charismatic in the way they spoke. That's why you have a lot of people that's charismatic, like a lot of preachers were very charismatic, because they go against you can have your intuition and, tell you something and you know what's right and what you should do for yourself, but you have these charismatic preachers that just go over whatever your intuition has already told you, and they're able to convince you otherwise, right? So this prophet listened to this other older prophet that told him that no, God didn't say go in a different direction. And what happened was that prophet, because he went against himself and he went against the God that was speaking to him, he was killed. You see, he was killed. And so what I'm saying is that anytime you feel like your spirit is telling you something, or you feeling strongly about something, and somebody else want to come along, it's family members, anybody else, want to come along and tell you, well, no, such and such and such and such. I realize that we all have a habit of doing that because we all still struggle with egos. But when you have somebody that really has a problem with that, that's a major one to separate from. But to be honest with you, around this time, it's time to just separate from a lot of people altogether and kind of be on your own. Let me just be clear. Unless you're raising children, unless you're dealing with somebody that you're responsible for, like children, it's best that you just separate from people right now. It's best that you separate. It doesn't matter if they're not perfect. We get that they're not perfect. But right now, it's best to separate from people, because what's going on right now, you're not only going to need sharp discernment and sharp intuition, you're going to have to get to a point where you're more spirit than you are physical. Because I know people are coming up with all these ideas about seeds and gardening and stuff like that and stocking up. But these entities that's doing what they're doing, they're already 1,000 steps ahead, 1,000 steps or more ahead, okay? And they're already 1,000 steps or more ahead. And they are aware. Just for an example, with the gardening thing, there were some people who just always gardened. They didn't need anybody to tell them to buy seeds. They were always gardeners. They always grow their own food, so nobody had to tell them to go and get some seeds and stock up, right? But ever since this whole thing started in 2020, they noticed things have been happening to their garden where the food has not been growing like it used to, because there's different grids around their area now, around their land and where they live. There's different grids up. And with different grids up, it's causing the vegetation, is causing the garden not to produce the food that they used to get. See? That's what I'm talking about. These entities are like 1,000 steps or more